Oh, first of all, everyone, just realize that you're a much higher percentage of the audience than you usually are. So, so that's really something special. I'm not going to make this too long. So what do I always do, kind of? Don't answer that. What I always do when I speak, I'm saying, is that a lot of things that we heard when we were younger, and then hopefully our brains developed a lot, and sometimes we forget to rerun them, and the system might, the developed system might come out with a more developed picture of what we're talking about. So I just thought, let's do Chanukah. Same thing. So everyone knows Chanukah. There basically were two nisim on Chanukah. One was that the great Greek army came out with elephants and soldiers for as far as you could see. And, like, I can beat up Zevi, but, I can't mess with an elephant. You know what elephants are like. So they came with elephants and these thousands of soldiers as far as you could see. And kind of like someone went into the kollel and he said, like, guys, there's a Greek army outside. And the kollel's like, shucks. Okay, so they finished what they were learning and they got up and they walked out. And Wisey's got his hand up.
I figured the right size to go underneath and poke in the middle.
Thanks a lot. Most of us can fit under an elephant, so I've heard worse. So the kollel goes out there, and they basically root this army out enough, at least, that they get back into the Beis HaMikdash. So that was a tremendous nace. But what the funny thing is, which you don't usually have this, is there's a second central nace. And that is that they get back to the Beis HaMikdash, and everyone knows already because you heard it from your 3-year-old Nora when you had like a Chanukah mommy and me or whatever you had. And don't please. I know you did a great job then. I'm telling you. So they come back to Beis HaMikdash and like, oh my gosh, there's no oil, and they find one that was stamped with the Kohen Gadol stamp, the Jewish tar, and it should only last 1 day, and it lasted 8 days. So what I'm sure you guys are all thinking now. In the aforementioned developed brains, is as follows. It's kind of funny to have two different nisim in one yantif. Like, do those have anything to do with each other? That if we would really turn on our brain and try and think what is Chanukah about, that the oil lasting 8 days and the kollel beating the Greeks, does that have anything to do with each other? Nowhere else like that. Parts of the same story, I would say. Like, okay, no, I mean, getting them out miraculously. And
yeah, the same story, meaning the war led to the lighting of the menorah. Everything led to the lighting of the menorah.
Okay, yeah, I agree a little bit. What I'm saying is we're like celebrating Pesach. If I ask you what Pesach is, you'll say, of course, Pesach. There was a bunch of nisim along the way, but the idea was that they were in terrible servitude, and they got out. Now, Hashem skipped over the Jewish house and punished the Goyish house, as they usually do. There were 10 makos, and they split the sea, and that was all about them getting out of Mitzrayim. Here, it's almost like there was one nace, which was just gorgeous, and then there was another nace, and they almost have, like, we celebrate. Okay, it's fair. Yes, YZ. Yes, what were you going to say?
Getting out of Egypt had nothing to do with us doing anything. It was all Hashem. He did almost everything there.
Okay.
He split the sea. He did all the stuff. Moshe only had to use his staff. Aaron only had to use the staff as well.
Which doesn't do much.
It wasn't like...
I've tried it.
It wasn't like they bred a whole bunch of locusts for...
No, right. Yeah, well, okay.
Over the entirety of Egypt.
Right. As the war nace, the Muhammad nace, they kind of did.
They kind of had to do stuff.
They did, but in both nisim, which is important.
In both, yeah.
So you're just saying like a general. That's good. I mean, it's a foundation maybe, but it's not that in both nisim they kind of tried. That has a lot to do with where I'm going, and Hashem kind of finished it off. Correct? I agree with that. Anyone else? Hey, one guy disappeared.
Necessity of retaliation.
which was interesting. We don't usually do that.
Right.
So many Sfarim asked the question, what's your clue? How do you know when to do that? When Purim happened, Haman got up and he said, we're going to kill out all the Jewish people with just a decree. And they went to the shul and they davened. And someone had a clue here. What? Well, they thought the davening would work, which it did. They weren't worried about, he could find them. That wasn't the problem. Whereas on Chanukah, they decided to pick up spears and try and figure out which way it pointed and fight the Yevanim. So the Sfarim do ask, how do you know what's your clue to know when to respond down? Anyone else?
When they start slaughtering you? Maybe?
Well, that was more Purim, actually.
That was the other one,
Right. I'm waiting for an answer. As soon as Shaya comes up with something, I will move on. But, did you hear the question?
Yeah.
What? No. Forget it. No. Yes, Mary.
Because, like, the difference between Purim and Chanukah is during Purim, it was just Haman going after the Jews, like, to kill them.
He was the prime minister. You know that.
Yeah.
Okay, because the army responded to him. Yeah, okay.
But by here, by Hanukkah, they were just not just going after, like, they didn't just want to kill the Jews. They just wanted to end the Jews, like, have them convert their...
Wonderful. I agree with everything everyone said. I'm going to try to put it together in my way. So, YZ said, it's something about your carpool. I guess I know what you guys schmooze about on your way here. So YZ said something about that the Jews started off and then Hashem finished it off. He said that over here no one was going to kill the Jews. So it brings us something that's very, very relevant, I think. And that is a word that comes connected to Chanukah a lot and is so relevant today to me and everyone else here.
Assimilation.
Close. The word is purity. Okay, this word comes up with Chanukah a lot. So the Yevanim had absolutely no, I'm not saying absolutely no, they were terrible in a lot of ways, but their direction of their persecution was not to kill out the Jewish people. It was just to ruin them. It was just to ruin their purity. So, for instance, we spoke on Halakha here. If a Jewish girl wanted to get married, she had to spend the night with the Greek, I don't know what, governor and mayor, whatever he was called in those days, first. And then she could be happily married after that, which is a terrible, terrible degree. Or they're worried about what they taught their children. They're worried about how they thought. They're worried about different mitzvahs that they kept that kept the purity of the people. And they were very, very worried about the menorah. So they went in there, just listen to this. And they purposefully did this. They knew the Jews light a menorah every day. They did not, they did broke some oil, but they didn't make sure to break all the oil. They said, go ahead, light the menorah. But you have this rule that your oil has to stay pure. We're going to make it all tummy. Just light it with tummy oil. So what is it? What is it about purity? And what did they want to do here? What were they going to ruin? So purity kind of means as follows. That when you, oil, in all of Torah, oil is a mashal to Torah. And light is a mashal to Torah. And really it's the same thing because oil is potential and oil is fuel. And without that, nothing's going to light. And then you take a wick and it wicks to the top and it burns and then you have light. So those are both. If you have pure fuel, then you have pure light. Yes, Vaisi? Is your hand stuck in like an upward position or something?
Maybe.
Yeah.
I need some help. Maybe a crank.
Yeah, like a down-keeping therapy. Yeah, go ahead. What were we going to say?
Yeah. So the Greeks are a lot like the Reform movement.
Wow. Somewhat. I agree with that a little bit.
I mean,
Okay.
interpret.
Right. I mean, Reformer Jews giving up, and this is persecution from the outside. But yeah. Okay, so the Greeks were big thinkers, and they also had a way of thinking, and their way of thinking contained a lot of intelligence. What?
Or maybe Jews for Jesus.
Okay, contained a lot of intelligence, a lot of the math and science and philosophy that we have started from the Greeks, but it didn't contain one thing. When they thought about things, it didn't contain God. It was about how I think in of myself, and that's smart. And to us, that's not pure. To us, that's not pure. If you want to think about what you're doing, the minute you look at the world and you say, look, Hashem invested this much and made a ecosystem with me in it and made me with the tools that he gave me, which are different than anyone else's tools, if you're going to want to think, what in the world is it that I'm supposed to do, you're going to have the one who sent you in that equation. You can't have the equation without him, because then you just do whatever you want. So, we are guaranteed that purity will stay there. So in the same exact note, if the Greeks said, okay, all Jews, stop learning Torah and start, going to the gym and following Thestadius's snap. I don't know who the Greek philosophers were. Maybe. It's not that time exact. So when we see that, and then you have this little pure enclave in this kollel, their job is, we're going to take that, and as long as it's going to last, we're going to light that. It's the same exact thing. We're going to keep that pure force, and they're going to come out, and they're going to persevere, even though they might end. But the guarantee is what we saw there. They walked out. This was the last little pocket of pure Jewish thought. It couldn't end. There was no way. If they walked into the Greek army and started fighting, they could not be extinguished, because then what was left? Nothing. Then we'd have to restart. And that's not connected to when we got the Torah. So that little pocket of people who were pure had to persevere. Same thing when we let the oil. Look, this is the last oil left, right? We have to light it, but it's going to use up. At that point, if it uses up, there's no more connection. The purity is over. We had one, and we used it. So it's going to have to persevere. It cannot be extinguished. So what do we have here? We have a guarantee in both of them that the purity that we exist in will not be extinguished. Those people, that oil, that way of thinking, will stay somewhere. Now, I just want to think for a second. I'm trying to think, how does this idea of purity of thought connect to 2022? Does anyone have any idea? It doesn't? It's not really a thing anymore, huh? Uh-huh. Not very popular.
Very little thought.
Very little thought at all.
And most of the thoughts are either.
All right, I'm glad everyone agrees. I'm not going to stay up here darshaning, because you could darshan it to yourself, which is the best way. So on Chanukah, it's time to think about that purity, and you all know it's true. As a matter of fact, I get every single guy here in the room by themselves, most of you, and I'll say, you know that this stuff that you are engaging in your brain in, it's terrible for you. It's ruining you. It's distracting you. You're not a human. You're not thinking like everyone said. You're just checking out. Every single guy by themselves will say, yeah, you're right, but it's tough. But it's tough. Guess what? Get to work.